Chapter 52, In the Graveyard. Chapter 52, In the Graveyard, and thanks to my betas, Daryl Deem and Alex 33, for checking this over. All mistakes are my own, especially since I have a bad habit of adding things and not sending it back to them. Disclaimer. I don't own anything related to Harry Potter. That privilege belongs to J.K. Rowling and all those who she lets make money for her. HPHPHP February 11, 1995. It was Hogsmeade weekend, and the Potter twins were determined to get their girlfriends something nice for Valentine's Day. Last year's gifts were sweet, but now that they were officially dating, they needed to get something more meaningful. Gary had written to Madame Bones and asked for permission to date her niece. She granted it only if he promised to keep their hormones in check, which he gave right away. She was quite upset when she found out what the fourth-year Hufflepuff girl wore to the ball and tore into the fathers that had taken the kids to Diagon Alley that summer. Harry also requested Daphne's father's blessing. Being from a pure-blood family, Mr. Greengrass was impressed and granted it. He knew that his daughter was a perfect lady, and she always informed him of what a gentleman Harry was. It was a small group of mutineer boys that were roaming the village. I have no idea what to get Susan, Gary confessed, looking around the shops to see if anything caught his eye. Her aunt wasn't much help. She thinks anything I get her will be good enough. You got her that charm bracelet last year, right? Terry asked as he too viewed the stores. Yeah, Mum says I should get jewelry again, but she didn't say what kind, the youngest Potter said, frustrated. Why don't you get her a nice emerald necklace to go with her coloring? Harry suggested. He was going to get something similar for Daphne, only topaz, and maybe matching earrings, he added thoughtfully. I'm not sure I want to get the same type to gift you're getting, Daphne. It shows I have no imagination. Gary waved off his brother's advice. Yeah, I guess that makes sense, his twin shrugged. The older they were, the more they became their own person. Gary was far more outgoing than his quieter twin. How about something from the sports store, like the jersey from her favorite Quidditch team? Spencer asked, or even season tickets to her favorite football team, Wright added. Those are actually good suggestions, Gary said thoughtfully. Susan was a bit of a tomboy. If he played it right and got something cute along with them, he could pull it off. I'm going to go talk to Mum. I think she's at the library today. He went to break off from the group when Harry grabbed his sleeve. Not by yourself, the older boy said firmly. We still don't know where Crouch Jr. is. Oh, yeah, Gary said sheepishly. He had become compliant. Nobody had heard a thing from the Death Eater or Voldemort in months. Let's go to the jewelry store first, then we'll go to the library, Harry said, pulling his brother along. So the group of boys went to the store, and Harry got his gift for Daphne. Terry got a charm bracelet for Mandy, since they weren't quite as serious as the Potter twins and their girlfriends. The other boys were going to get something simple, like stuffed animals or flowers. Harry and Gary were just leaving the shop, the other boys right behind them, when they heard a crack. As they spun around to the alley next to the store, Harry was hit in the side with a stunning spell. Gary whirled around to try and see who attacked his brother. Just as he had lifted his hands to fire a cutting curse at the man in the shadows, he was also hit with a stunning spell. The parents could be seen running down the street towards the boys, wands raised and ready to attack. They just spotted Crouch's name on the map and came as soon as they could. They got within range and saw the other mutineers attempt to fire spells at the kidnapper. Crouch sneered at them and disappeared with a portkey. Neville, what happened? Lily said, grabbing the boy by the arm and giving it a shake when she finally reached them. I'm not sure, the blond boy said, a bit dazed. We were coming out of the shop when we heard the sound of apparition. The twins started to face whoever it was, but he got to them first. Frank extracted his son from the upset mother. Neville, are you hurt? The Gryffindor just shook his head. James awoke Harry and asked him the same questions. Then he asked, Harry, can you tell where your brother is? Give me a minute, the older twin said, and shook the cobwebs from his head. He started calling down the bond. Gary, can you hear me? He called. He then shook his head at his parents. Keep trying, Lily demanded. Harry just nodded his head and did as she said. The parents sent the other boys back to the castle, then whipped out their mirrors and started rallying the troops, making sure to tell Amelia. Later, with Gary woke with a major headache and to the worried voice of his brother. Gary, goddamn, answer me. Harry's voice screamed in his head. The teen groaned and opened his heavy eyes. His arms and feet were tied to a headstone. There was a man moving about the area in front of him. He could only conclude it was the elusive Crouch Jr. Harry, what happened? The cemetery was old, and there were many tombstones that were crumbling and falling apart. It was surrounded by woods, and the shadows that were on the ground let Gary know that not much time had passed. "We were ambushed. Where are you?" was the frantic reply. "I'm in some graveyard. Crouch is here. He's setting up a cauldron, and it looks like he is going to do some ritual." Gary looked closer to the headstones around him. "All the grave markers say the last name Riddle," he informed his brother. "There's a baby-like body in front of the cauldron. I think it's Voldemort," he finished. He could hear noises at his feet. He looked down and saw a gigantic snake slithering through the grass, circling the headstone where he was tied. Sally popped up next to the teen and said, "Don't worry, Gary. Your brother can find you. The bond you have is strong. I need you to be as calm as you can and try and get out of your ropes," she said as soothingly as she could. Internally, she was cursing that she couldn't do more. Gary took a deep breath and tried to cut his bonds. He sent a wandless cutting curse to the ropes, but nothing happened. "Damn, I think he suppressed my magic, or these are magic resistant." "Okay, try and stay calm," Sally said. "I think I know this ritual. It requires blood of the enemy. Remember what I told you guys a long time ago. Voldemort is not your enemy. He is a parasite that must be destroyed. As long as you keep that in mind, the ritual won't work." "I'll try, but it is kinda hard to think that when the man is trying to kill me," Gary said, taking another calming breath. "Gary, we know where you are and we'll be there in few minutes. Mum and Dad are gathering as many adults as they can, as quickly as they can. Try and hold on," Harry said. "Okay, hurry though, my magic is not working. I'm going to get Dad to take me there now. Maybe if I send some of my power to you, you can get loose." "We can try. We've never really shared power before," Gary replied. It was about that time that Barty noticed Gary was awake. He sneered at the helpless boy. All of his spying had paid off. Stupid Wormtail almost ruined everything when he got caught, but the Dark Lord never trusted that sniveling coward. It took months of replanning after his failed attempt to get the boy in the tournament. His master was pleased and would reward him well when he was revived. Now, finally, his master was going to be reborn and greater than ever. Feeling helpless, little boy, the demented man smirked. "Can't use your great power to get free. My master is too smart for a weakling like you," he boasted. "Bartemius, continue with the preparations," came a soft voice from the baby-like figure. "I will deal with the boy who lived in due time." "Yes, master," Crouch said and turned back to the cauldron, adding more ingredients. "Gary, me, and Dad are outside the graveyard, but there are wards up. I don't know how long it will take to get through them. I'm pushing my magic through the bond, but it seems the wards are stopping it." Harry's voice rang in his head. Okay, I'm going to try and reach you," Gary replied. He felt down the bond and could feel the barrier preventing the transfer. The cauldron in front of the bound boy started to bubble. Sparks flew in every direction. Crouch picked up the homunculus and gently lowered it in the potion. He then waved his wand, and a bone flew from the grave Gary was tied to. "Bone of the father, unknowingly given, you will renew your son." The escaped convict intoned firmly as he threw the bone into the large pot. Sally whispered in Gary's ear, "Remember, not your enemy." Gary nodded, but he was not convinced. After all, this man has been trying to kill him and his brother all their lives. He was trying, though. Crouch placed his right arm over the cauldron, raised a knife to his hand, and slicked off his index finger. "Flesh of the servant, willingly given, you will revive your master," the crazy man cried joyfully. "How close are you?" "Crouch is almost done," Gary practically yelled down the bond. "One more minute, we're almost there." Crouch then turned and made his way to the teen. He lifted the knife and placed it on Gary's arm. With a cruel smirk, he cut deep into the flesh of the teen's forearm. "Blood of the enemy, forcibly taken, you will resurrect your foe." Placing a vial under the freely bleeding arm, he collected the blood. Gary sagged in defeat. He couldn't think of Voldemort as anything but his enemy. The ritual will work. Taking the blood back to the cauldron, Crouch poured it in. More sparks came from the potion. A white mist soon filled the area, and Gary couldn't see anything. Let it not have worked, he prayed frantically, desperately reaching down the barn to get more power. Just then he felt the barrier break and magic flooded through his system. He cast another cutting curse, and this time his hand was freed. He quickly untied his other hand and then unbound his feet. As the mist was beginning to clear, he ducked behind the headstone, sending a message to his brother letting him know where he was. He saw familiar figures moving among the trees and snuck his way towards them. Just as he was about there, a large snake appeared in front of him, hissing in his face. He raised his hand and severed the head of Snake without a word, and gave a huge sigh in relief and continued his way. He met up with his father and said quietly, "I killed the snake." James just nodded and jerked his head to the back of the woods. Gary looked and saw a very worried Harry and quietly made his way to his twin. Lily was also there. She healed Gary's arm and then grabbed the boys. She was just about to take them away when Sally popped up and shook her head. "If you want to end it now, they have to stay," she informed the overly protective mother. "No," the distraught woman whispered. She and James had done everything to keep her boys away from the fight. It went against everything they believed in to keep the twins here. "You must," insisted Sally. "There is still the prophecy in play. No matter how much you shelter the boys, Harry has to face Voldemort." "Mum, I have to," Harry said as he put a shaking hand on his mother's arm. "This is what you guys have been training us for. If we're going to do it, it should be now, before he starts killing again." Lily looked into her son's eyes and saw only a scared teen, but the determined glint and the firming of the jaw let her know that he was brave enough to fight. It was with great reluctance that she nodded her head. The three Potters turned and made their way back to James. James had been watching the resurrected Dark Lord search for his son. Now was the time, while the monster was weak. He glanced around and saw the same conviction on the other parent's face. No one wanted this man to roam free again. Lily and the twins joined him. He raised an inquiring eyebrow. Lily only shook her head sadly and mouthed, "Prophecy." His shoulders sagged, and then after a minute he nodded his head. They spread out among the trees in a circle around the graveyard. Voldemort was pressing his wand to the dark mark on Crouch's arm. The Death Eaters would be here soon. They could end this war before it even started. The Dark Lord was glancing around the woods. He could see the figures moving into position, but he wasn't concerned. They would never be able to kill him. His Death Eaters were formidable fighters. These pathetic wizards won't stand a chance against him or his men. One by one, the cloaked and masked men appeared. They formed a circle around their master and waited with bated breath. "I had a wonderful speech all prepared for you, my friends. However, it seems we have company. I want you to find the boy who lived and bring him before me, unharmed. Kill anyone else," the silky voice of the deformed man said. "Now," James bellowed, lifting his wand and sending curse after curse to the robed figures in the graveyard. The parents all raised their wands to do the same. Not one stunning curse was sent. Caught by surprise, 5 of the Death Eaters fell to harmful curses. The rest raised shields and started a barrage of counter-attacks. The Potters stood together, just outside the graves. It was unfortunate that the Dark Lord spotted them. He trained his wand on Harry. Since he couldn't tell them apart, he would start with the closest and sent a killing curse. Harry wandlessly lifted his necklace in the path of the deadly curse, and the last Horcrux was destroyed. As one, the family turned, and all 4 attacked the vile being with different curses. Blood exploded everywhere as Tom's wand arm fell to his feet. His intestines spilled from his belly. A large gash bloomed across his eyes, blinding him immediately. The last curse was Harry's, and just as the Dark Lord was yelling his defiance to the sky, his head fell from his body. The power he knew not was his family standing united. 4 years later, Harry Potter looked around for the last time at the home he knew most of his life. He was getting married tomorrow to the lovely Daphne Greengrass. They would be moving into their own house after they came back from their honeymoon. When they returned, they were going to be opening a new inn in Diagon Alley and hopefully live a very quiet life. As he glanced around his room, he reflected on the last few years. After the Dark Lord fell, most of the Death Eaters fled. Well, the ones who weren't injured or dead. Lucius Malfoy was among the injured, and since Madame Bones was there, this time he couldn't buy his way out of Azkaban. Harry and Gary were whisked away soon as the body hit the ground. Their job was done. Lily took them straight to the Hogsmeade Library and fed them calming drafts. Sally was there to let them know that Voldemort was finally on his way to his just reward. It took an hour to talk the boys down, but they did, then ushered them back to the castle. Lily informed them that they would be speaking to Dumbledore as soon as Amelia finished with the crime scene. She told them that if the headmaster tried to talk to the boys before the parents got there, to tell him to wait. The Potter twins had made their way back to Hogwarts and were met by a large crowd of concerned friends, and of course, their girlfriends. The boys had been covered in dirt and blood, so everyone was asking what happened. They only told them that it was finally over. The tension that had filled the air changed to one of relief and confusion. The boys told the mutineers they would get the whole story that night. Dumbledore, having been informed by Snape that his dark mark flared, did try and get the two tired teens to his office. They stood firm and said their parents would be there soon. And sure enough, just when the old man persisted, 20 adults filed into the hall. They all looked tattered and torn, but the relief that showed on their faces was enough to calm their children. His dad had told him what happened in the headmaster's office. James explained to Albus everything the mutineers and their parents had done over the years, how they hunted the Horcruxes, how they trained the boys. He smirked as he recounted the blatant disbelief on the old man's face. It took sharing the memories of their trials that finally put Dumbledore in his place. After that confrontation, James and Lily finally moved on with their lives. James stayed with the Wisengamot, and Lily joined the Unspeakables as a researcher. All of the movements they put forward to keep the kids together were still in play. Wizards were still sending their kids to Muggle schools, and vacations were taking place outside the wizarding world. The libraries and the crystals still thrived. Harry smiled at the memory of Dumbledore stepping down as headmaster. Never again were they bothered by that man. His face then turned sad as he remembered Sally saying her goodbyes. Now that her mission was over, she couldn't stay. She had taken them to the room of requirements that night and told them it was time for her to go. Needless to say, the twins were upset. They had known this deity all their lives. After a tearful hour of thanks and goodbyes, Sally left. Gary had married Susan right out of Hogwarts. The couple was expecting their first child soon. Harry was proud of his brother. Gary became an Auror. The fight with Voldemort cemented his career. Amelia Bones backed his choosing. The youngest Potter twin was still the heir to the Black family, because even though Sirius married Valette, they still didn't have a son. Gary was going to split the fortune with Valette's daughter, Arletta. However, he would inherit the title. Because there was no outside interference, Victor Crumb won the Triwizard Tournament. Harry was happy for his friend. He kept in touch with all the Durmstrang students he befriended. Harry picked up the last thing to be packed. It was a photo album of all the mutineers and their time together, going back from when they were in the Muggle primary school. As he flipped through the pages, he glanced at one of the first photos. He shook his head at the picture of Ron, standing with his family. Ron had married Hermione, and they lived poorly at the Barrow. All that time Gary wasted on the bushy-haired girl made Harry a bit sad. Oh well, she'd choose her own path. He turned the pages to the end, and there was a photo of the whole gang. It was taken the day the Potter boys graduated. They had held a large party, and every mutineer, and their parents celebrated with them. Neville was standing next to Luna. The soft look in his eyes as he stared at the quirky girl was how he still looked at her now. They started dating just after the Yule Ball. Neville changed his career choice of herbology to follow his girlfriend around the world looking for obscure animals. Harry glanced at the other sets of twins in the photo. The Weasley twins, with the help of Sirius and Remus, opened their joke shop. It was a tremendous success. Marley never liked that her boys didn't go into the ministry, but the twins didn't care. They were happy. Right now they were not seeing anyone, but talk was going around that they were flirting with two of the girls they played Quidditch with. The Paddle twins moved in with Lavender. Padma was training with Lily in the Unspeakables. Parvati and Lavender were under the apprenticeship of Trelawney. The batty woman was going to leave Hogwarts and wanted one of her two best students to take her place. Whichever one got the job, the other would open a fortune-telling stand next to Pandora's box. Terry and Mandy tried dating, but it didn't work for them. Terry is now seeing one of the Beauxbatons girls he met fourth year. Mandy was single and working in the department of the misuse of Muggle artifacts. Hannah was coupled up with Michael, which shocked everyone. They had bought the Daily Prophet and brought the sales back up to what they were before Skeeter ruined the paper. Alice McFay, who had been one of the quieter mutineers, was now sharing a flat with Sally Ann Perks. Both girls moved back to the Muggle world after leaving Hogwarts. They never truly felt they belonged to the wizarding world. They did keep in touch with the rest of the gang, but were happier where they were. Spencer and Ginny are engaged to be married this winter. They both went into Quidditch and were doing well. Tracy and Astoria were both apprenticed to Madame Malkin. The dressmaker was going to retire soon, and the two girls wanted to take over the shop. Everyone in the picture had moved on after the battle in the graveyard. The parents finally had relaxed their protective stances and let the teens be teens. The mutineers met at least once a month to catch up on everyone. "Harry," a soft voice said behind him, "are you ready?" Harry turned to his soon-to-be wife and nodded. He put the picture album in the only open box in the room and went to her side. "Just finishing packing," he said. And that is that. I thank you all for reading and hope you enjoyed it. It was always my intention to end the story during the tournament. To tell the truth, this fic is much longer than I intended. And if you like this story, then please check out my others. None of them are like this one, but you might still like them.